Hello and welcome to the Tournament Poker Project. My name's Jon.
And I'm Tain.
And we are recording live all the way from Essex. Or not live, we are recording live, but we are probably playing this 3 months later.
Yeah, we're pre-recorded 100% live.
100% live. This is our learning journey to become great at poker. If you've not listened before, we'll be analysing a hand a little bit later on. But before we dig in, Tain, what's going on? How you been feeling since the big tourney that we went in for?
It's been mixed emotions. So no one on the pod will know, but Jon and I went out uptown. We went down to London to play in what is probably our biggest own cash buy-in. So Jon's definitely played in bigger tournaments. I played for bigger prizes, but all of them were either a smaller buy-in or satellites or something. This was cold hard, £125 of each of our cash, or more if you bought a second bullet.
But I didn't. I didn't. It was one bullet for me. That was plenty.
We both had it in our back of our minds that possibly, but no, didn't need it. Neither of us cashed, but I got very close.
How close did you get, Tain? What was the first payout? It was 15th place, wasn't it?
It was 15th. Yeah, I got to 19th.
Oh, Tain, so close.
Pre-bubble, but yeah, close enough. But the bottom payout was like £200, so it weren't even twice your cash. So it weren't as much as that would have been nice, because it would have been I didn't even have to pay for my first tournament. It weren't too bad. I didn't feel like I was short. I felt like I gained a lot of value. I learned a lot of things. But also, we both went into it knowing that it was going to be a level of soft field. When you're playing on a Friday night, people tend to go there for fun. They go there because they've had a long week at work. They may be having some beers. There's not many other games in London that are going to be that buy-in. I think there was a game at the Hippodrome, which was £350 buy-in, and then other places like the Vic don't even do tournaments. It's just cold hard cash, and it's probably bigger than that as well.
And 350 is just a bit too big. I mean, I don't think I'll be doing that for a while yet, unless we suddenly start getting some wins at the level we're playing. And even that, 125 was probably a little bit high for. I wouldn't say I was playing scared money, but it was uncomfortable. And maybe that's just, the way it has to be. I could afford one of those a month and not worry about it too much. But, it clearly didn't affect you too much because you went for such a deep run. First, big entry tourney like that, and you've just sat there and dominated the table from what you were telling me.
Yeah, I don't seem to have any fear of the prizes, the top prize, the money that's on at risk. It's not that I'm immune to it, because it does exist, but it's the effort that bothers me. The longer I'm in the tournament, the more I feel if I go away empty-handed at 2 a.m, I'm going to be devastated that I've literally spent 6, 7, 8 hours and I've come away with zeros. And that's the thing that gets me. It normally puts me on a fruit machine or something as I'm walking out the casino.
I must win money.
Yeah, I've got to have something. Oh, that black 28. Anyway, less said about black 28. No, black 7. Sorry, the better. But it was good. I was super surprised at how soft it was. I got lucky in that the table I sat down was just. I hope the people aren't listening, but they were terrible. Like the entire table was terrible.
This is what I've been telling you, Tain. Like, we've got to a level where, all right, we're not brilliant, but we can so hold our own in a buy-in of that size. In a casino, you've got all sorts of people playing, and there's probably people down there that are better than us, but we're probably better than the majority of the runners in that level of tournament at casino. In all honesty. And boy, it was proven. You sat down at a table and free bet the hell out of it, and everyone just kept getting out of your way.
Yeah, it was the big stack for ages. And it weren't big stack as in I was going around swinging my membership card, should we say, and people were running up against, lucky hands and stuff. Where most of my value come from was hoovering up the easy wins. So you'd enter a pot with someone who was only playing 1 in 10, 1 in 15 hands. The flop came out something like 10, 4, 3, and you just bet. Like, you just think neither of us hit that. You probably got the better hands, and you're going to fold it. So you bet, because I'm going in with Jack 10 suited, and I know they're going in with ace.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going to fold because they just I free bet pre-flop. It means that they're scared to put any more money in the pot without actually hitting. So when they don't hit, it was just easy money. It was just like that, and I weren't even playing as more hands than I should. That was the thing that I was really proud of, that my discipline was good. I didn't suddenly think, well, why don't I just play all my hands? Because I think people noticed that I was still selecting when I entered the pot, and it's just that when I entered the pot, I was going to win 75% of them. You got 25% when they hit and I run away.
So my table was probably equally as soft, in all honesty. I wasn't sitting there thinking, oh my god, there's some really great players here. I just had terrible run of cards, and I know it shouldn't be all about that, and it certainly isn't all about that, but I've been practicing GTO opening ranges and just couldn't get a look in. Nothing was anywhere near suitable. When I did get hands like ace 4 offsuit on the button, I had like an under the gun open and 3 callers, and it was like, well, it's not really a 3-bet there, or a squeeze, or whatever you'd call that. It's probably a fold, and I just had a lot of folds. I did manage to double up with aces, which was good. So when I got the cards, I did get paid, which was good, and I was relatively happy with how deep I went. I made it after the break, considering what a bad string of cards I got. I was happy enough. Oh no, I was just chuffed that you were doing so well and you went so deep. It was good.
Yeah, and it felt good. That was the thing that I really enjoyed. That it felt good, and I moved table at one point, and I felt everything that I've been benefiting from is out the window. But it really weren't. In fact, at one point, I think I free bet someone sitting just to the right of me, and I knew he was a good player, but I thought, this is a free bet hand. I can't remember, so like Jack 10 suited, free bet it, and then he called. No, how was it? I must have been. I'm just trying to think, because he had position on me. So how would he have position on me? Oh, he must have been the button, and I must have been the small blind. And I've free bet. Yeah, and that makes sense. So he's done a button raise. He's trying to steal the blinds. I've free bet from the small blinds. We've gone to the flop, and then I've check raised him. And he's thought about it, and he's proper tanked. Got his little 30-second timer, and then he's folded. And then he's just like, he basically, he sat there and thought, I know you didn't have anything then. And it's not that I didn't have anything. I had some good draws, but it was either I check raise with my really strong hands, and I check raise with some of my better draws. As the kind of bluff part of it. But every time he saw me 3 more times, and he kept saying, I just knew I should have raised.
Yeah, well, once he sees you do it like 2 more times after, he's probably got a good idea that you're not just doing it with a set or a made straight. It's you're doing it with a bit wider than that.
Yeah, and I think a few players did give me quite a bit of respect, per se. So it's not they gave up easy, or they didn't do anything and they played ABC against me, but they didn't try to gang up on me. They didn't start attacking me with free bets where they might have been doing that to some of the weaker players, because I did notice that, but then I was party to that. All of us were doing it. But it was good. Like there was no one there that I felt had the measure of me until I got a bit shorter stacked, but I don't want to go too much into that, because that's the hand. That's the hands that I wouldn't want us talking through.
Well, look, without further ado, why don't we jump into it? So you're going to take us through a hand from this very tournament, right? How deep were we at this stage?
So this was This was not when I went out, but it weren't far before. That isn't a spoiler per se. This doesn't go to showdown, but we do know villains cards. But yeah, there was about 20 runners left at this point, and top 15 got paid. I was immensely aware of ICM because I was the worst place. I was middle stack, where the people above me are comfy and pushing people around. The people below me have got easy decisions because it's just push or fold. And I'm there trying to get through, because the problem is, even though I've got like 30 big blinds, that was getting evaporated really quickly. The blinds, it was moving around, fold. Sometimes the big stack pushed it around, sometimes didn't do much. I weren't hitting any cards to get any kind of fold equity, or the times that I do hit cards, there's been a raise and a re-raise, and it's, your ace jack isn't very good in an ICM situation. So I was starting to worry a little bit. It didn't mean that I was playing badly, but it did mean that I weren't willing to take any silly risks.
No, I understand that. And all right, so you were pretty deep here, and you said to come 19th. So what was there, like 3 tables left? Final 3 tables, was it?
Yes. So 20. So what was it? 8 16s. Yeah. So we were playing 8 at this. What is it? 8 7 7.
Okay.
No. 8. Something like that. Might have been 7 7 7. 7 7 6. Sorry.
So
yeah. 7 7 6 feels right.
So about 20 odd people left. So you're approaching the bubble. The bubble's, there's 15 places paid. Like you say, your medium stack. You've got a table with a mix of short stacks and some pretty big monster stacks as well. Well, one in particular, a couple of people your kind of stack, and then a big stack at the table as well. So, all right, if I can talk the audience through the exact setup. So,
just a quick note, because I will post the link to this hand history in the show notes. I've set this up as 8 people at the table, but I've just reminded myself when we were talking about how many were left, it was only 7, but because this tournament plays a big blind ante, you can't do that on the thing. You have to set an ante for everyone, and 7 people into 2,000 just weren't going. So I've put it as 8 people, but it is only 7 people left.
Sure. Okay.
Not that it matters. Just in case that confuses people.
So we're in the big blind. So who opens here? So it folds all the way round to the button, and the button raises 4.5k. The blinds are 1,000, 2,000, and the button is the monster stack. So we have the monster stack opening. Puts 4.5 into the 5,000-ish pot.
Yeah.
The small blind folds, and we are here defending with the ace of clubs, 10 of hearts. Okay, so interesting hand. I mean, to me, it's definitely not a fold, but I wouldn't say it's a definite 3-bet either. I think ace queen, ace king is 3-betting all day long. Ace 10's probably a strong calling hand, I would say, like at the stronger end of your calling range. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, this is where, and this should be a warning to anyone listening, this is my poor knowledge of ICM. So don't take anything we say in this episode as good advice, because it's actually, I don't know what to do in this situation. My feeling was I didn't want to take any risks because of the ICM. I wanted to kind of hold on to my chips, but I don't want to start throwing away ace 10 when it's heads up versus a massive stack button who would be raising in this position with entire range. And I was very confident of that. It's not that I felt they'd be raising a wider range. I felt that they're fully aware of ICM. They're a very good player. They were really strong. They knew everything. They knew what they were doing. They were going to be ranging, but yeah, with their entire range, knowing that there's such a small percentage of hands that we're going to do anything with, that we're going to be basically just giving up and the small blind was a slight bit shorter than I was, but still enough to kind of see if you can cling on for that last place. So yeah, my feeling was a call here isn't a good move out of position. I wanted to ideally win the pot there, but if not, because I've shown such aggression and I'm willing to put money in even in an ICM situation, it can buy me a bit of time, or it can buy me extra leverage on future streets.
Gotcha. Okay, so you 3-bet.
I do. So what would you 3-bet?
What would I 3-bet? Out of position, you probably want more fold equity than showdown. So I would probably go even as much as sort of 16,000.
Not quite as good, a bit bold. Maybe I should have. That's the other thing. Maybe I should have been that bold. But yeah,
I don't think it's essential. So you've gone 13,000. It's maybe. It's almost 3 times his bet, isn't it? It's 3x, so it's fine. It's only because you mentioned there about you kind of want to win the hand, like almost you'd be happy if he just folds, right? So if you want to push up the levels of the fold equity, then probably that bigger bet would do that. That being said, obviously sometimes a really kind of thinking player, if Philin was a particular thinker here, he might clock on to that bigger bet size and think this guy wants to fold. He's not got pocket aces or pocket kings. So it depends. Yes, it's all dependent. This is the monster stack as well. He may well decide to start really being a bit of a bully and maybe put you all in. Although saying that would be a huge chunk of his stack to do that. So yeah, it really depends on a lot of factors. One of the factors there is if you have been seen to be 3-betting a bit, then he knows you're not doing that with only the nuts. So he may 4-bet, if you go too big, if he's a thinking player. So it could be a little bit swings and roundabouts. I think if I had to choose, I would go maybe a little bit bigger than that, maybe 15,000, 16,000.
Sure. But we do bet 13,000.
13,000. And the button calls. So we go to a flop, 3-bet flop. The flop comes 9 of diamonds, 4 of spades, 2 of diamonds. So we haven't hit. We don't have any sort of straight or flush draws. We just have 2 overcards. There's no made straights on the board. There's 2 to the flush. And the 2 and the 4, not really a big part of either of your ranges. So it's just whether he's hit the 9 or he's got some sort of pocket pair, which he may well have. So yeah, okay, the action's on us. We're first to act. We're out of position here. This to me is a check, I would say.
Cool. Does ICM make any difference to that?
What? Whether we should just bet out?
The check. I don't know why it would do. I'm just trying to think of anything that I might have missed. For instance, wrapping up the hand now before any future cards come is actually beneficial. I don't know. Should we be trying to?
Trying to sort of take it down now?
Yeah, as a mixture of, if we win the hand right here, right now, that's not a bad. That's a very good outcome. But also, if we did hit, say, a 9, say we had ace 9 off, we'd want to protect that 9. If we had a set of 2s, set of 4s, we'd want to build the pot. And they're the kind of hands that we'd be looking to polarize with, perhaps. So I would be betting, say, 23,000, maybe not that big, maybe only half pot, maybe 15, 18,000.
Yeah, I definitely like half. I think you can't go third pot on this particular flop because of the 2 diamonds. I think if you've got an overpair in a situation, it's probably the right move to bet half pot. So if you're representing something like an overpair, which you well represent with your 3-bet, I would say half pot's the way to go. but I don't like I don't mind a bit of a bigger bet as well, just to really get rid of him. But again, a bit of a bigger bet might look like you're trying to do exactly what you are trying to do, which is get rid of him. And again, if he's a bit of a thinking player, he will recognise that. So for me, yeah, half pot bet here would be the other option, and I don't mind either. A check. I think if we check and then he bets, which he likely will, what do we do with it then? Is it the check raise? It's going to be big. If he's betting half pot, we're going to need to go basically all in. We'd have to jam. Yeah.
So my feeling was, and I mean, I might as well give a real. I did check, but my rationale was that any opening bet, any leading bet, as a C bet, unless it's massive, like full pot, which I really weren't ever going to be doing out of position, with an ICM and with only a offsuit ace 10, but he'd just float with the stack he's got. He would float with so much of his range, because he's called a free bet at this point, so he's likely got rid of a massive amount of trash. So we need to get rid of the idea that he's playing with trash. He's called it, so he's now back to playing what should be, I don't know, if we use it, the equivalent of he's now playing an under the gun range, as though he opened under the gun. That's how I'm looking at it. So he's playing with the best parts. He's not playing with the very top aces, kings, queens, because I reckon he would have shoved, put me under even more pressure, especially as I'm not incentivized to do much. If he did have aces, for instance, that's a superb time to get the money in, because I've already shown aggression and he's got the best hands. I'm likely to be pushing into him with ace, king, kings, queens, that kind of thing, where, well, probably only that thing, but that's perfect if you've got aces. So my intention was to check raise. So I was willing to commit a lot of my chips to that, but I also felt he's just not hit that flop, and I don't think he would ever be strong enough to call a check raise, given the ICM, given that I'm out of position, given the amount I'd have to be committing to the pot. It'd take a phenomenal hand for him to continue. And I was beating enough of his range with that. I could see him without the diamond flush. I can see him folding ace king, for instance. So I felt that a check raise was where I wanted to be. But if he checks behind, I get a free card, and it lets me reevaluate, and I'll get a bit closer to showdown. So I felt checking was the best all-round option.
Okay.
But I did have a plan as well. It weren't just a stab, let's just hope I can get through this. It was, if he comes back at me, unless he comes back with a, as you said, like a pot size raise, at which point I'm just going to fold. But if he comes back at me with something, like 12,000, what's that, third pot? Not even a third pot, sorry. 8,000 or something, 9,000. Then I was going to check raise and see how I get on. Anyway, I do check.
Okay.
So what do you feel the Vitlin's going to do?
Well, he checks as well.
Kind of not what I wanted to see. One of the things that I was mentioning, where he's going to be floating with such a massive part of his range, is that if he gets a free card, or anything higher than the 9, and I've got no confidence. Sorry, anything higher than a 10, and I can't really do much with the hands, because that fits most of the hands that I feel that they're in this position with.
Okay. So we go to a turn, and it's the Jack of Hearts. So actions on us again. Obviously, the flush draw out there is the diamonds, so that's not come in. Okay, it's not the best. I mean, there are 9s in Villain's range as well, but there's certainly Jacks. So we're now sitting here still just with ace high. It's a good hand to analyse, because it's one of those hands I find myself in all the time, where I'm suddenly like, oh my god, the pot's like more than half my stack. How have I got to this position? All I've got is a bloody overcard, and I don't really know what to do in any situation. Like being super bold. In hindsight, I like your check raise. Like, I think it's almost a check jam on the flop, and even if he bets half pot, I think we could have jammed. over the top of it to really just represent that big pair. And really all you're betting is that he hasn't got a 9 or some other sort of pair that he's, you know, happy enough to call with.
Yeah.
So
I think with that maneuver, the worst of it would be ace king, ace queen, maybe ace jack.
Just looking you up.
Yeah, but then I also feel they're the most likely hands that would have raised me in this position. Like, I don't feel that I'm dominated. I feel like a good ace, especially the ace of diamonds, would have bet that flop. But I didn't have a clue where to go with this either.
So hard, isn't it? I mean, it's basically, I suppose, look, imagine if you did have an overpair to that flop, right? Your SPR on the flop is 1.5. That would tell you that you should be getting all your chips in if you've got an overpair. Like if you've got a pair, you know, if you've got ace 9, king 9, all your chips should be going in. So if you've 3-bet here and you're repping an overpair to the flop, then I think we should have maybe got all the chips in. I think we maybe should have just jammed that, either jammed on the flop or check jammed. But obviously he didn't let us anyway because he checked behind. So to avoid the risk of him checking behind, maybe it should have just been a slump all your chips in on the flop. Just feels a little bit. No, I don't think he could have called with overcards. I think he would have folded because it's still an overbet. You know, the pot was 30,000. You're betting 1.5 times that, so you're making a really big bet. It's a chunk of his stack just to be taking a punt on with 2 overcards. You're firmly representing the, you know, the big pocket pair with your 3-bet and then jam on a SPR 1.5 flop. You know, that's 9 high, unless he had the 9. Unless he's got a 9, he's probably folding that. So now I'm thinking that was, although it's scary, that's probably the way it should have been played. I don't just like full disclaimer, I don't think I would have actually played like that in the game. I think I'd have done exactly what you done and been like, you know, I don't really want to be jamming with just overcards.
But does that fit in with an ICM? Like, as much as the risk, the fold equity is big, I feel that they've called a 3-bet, and I don't know, all it would take to call me in that opening position. I remember thinking this now. I remember thinking, sorry about coming back, like we've meant to have gone on to the turn, but I kept thinking if he's got the ace of diamond, he's calling with anything because he knows I'm not even playing to the flush draw, and I've lost a big part of my leverage with the diamonds being out there. And if he's got the ace of diamonds, if I had the ace of diamonds and the stack that he's got and I saw the jam, I'd call it. I can't, but apart from a pair of pocket 9s.
He did call a 3-bet. There's even a chance he's slow playing a monster and he's just waiting for you to catch up, because he would do it like this. Like, he knows that calling your 3-bet gives him an SPR of 1.5 because obviously the same effective stack. And that flop comes down, he's thinking, there's not many 9s in your 3-betting range, if any, you know, apart from maybe pocket 9s you might do it with. Maybe he's sitting there with a big pocket pair himself and he's waiting for you to catch up.
Yeah. But then the thing that just kept going through my mind is I said to myself, he's going to float to most of my opening bets, and he's going to be floating with hands like better aces than mine, king queen, king jack, queen jack, maybe some moderate pairs, like might do that with 10s, maybe 8s. So the next card is going to be a really difficult one for me to play, which is what my ambition to be a check raise was for, but I didn't get the opportunity. And then the jack came, and that is the worst card I think I could see. Apart from an ace where I could be at kickered, there was that thought that even an ace might not be good for me. But I feel that the jack, queen, or king were all equally as bad because they're all equally as likely to be in their range. And I just couldn't. I couldn't bet into that. Like I can't see any turn bet here that's going to be a profitable ICM position.
Yeah. Okay.
So I do check.
So you check the turn.
And
villain slumps in 166,000 for his entire stack. Obviously far outstacking you. So he's put this on you for your tournament life.
basically, he said to us, I'm going to take a punt that you've not got a jack. Is all I can see this, because
but it's either that or it's right. This guy's either got a part of this and he wants to see a showdown, in which case with my pocket kings or whatever, I'm going to hope he has got a 9 or a jack and might actually call me if I make a huge overbet here, 150% of the pot. Yeah, you're right. He's either got air or he's got an overpair.
I did take most of the overpairs out of his range. I didn't see. I think they would have been a 4-bet shove.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe, but I
might be wrong.
No, you could well be right. The only reason I think he might have decided to get to a flop and then get the chips in is that if he had seen you 3-betting a fair bit, he might have felt like, if I've got pocket aces, pocket kings, I really want all his chips in here. He might not 4-bet you because he knows that might scare you off, seeing as you are 3-betting with more than just pocket aces and stuff like that. So it might be that he's decided to go to a flop, knowing the SPR is going to be favourable for him to then just get it all in anyway.
Yeah. Do you want to quickly run through the action and then we'll go down to the final decision?
Yeah, sure. So we start off, folds round to the button and he opens for 4.5k. We 3-bet to 13k with ace 10 offsuit on the big blind. We see a flop of the 9 of diamonds, 4 of spades, 2 of diamonds. It goes check, check. Then the jack of hearts comes, we check, and then the villain jams all in. So all we have here is ace high with a 10 on a board that hasn't got any made flushes or straights at this point. It feels, if he's bluffing, what is he representing? I almost feel like this is just a bet that he's thinking maybe this guy's got a jack or a 9 and he's just being cautious. And I don't know why. You know what? I need to rule it out because I keep thinking about this overpair, but it's just superstitious, really.
So I don't think there's any time I can call it. I think we're both aware with the exact holding I've got, this is not a call. What is the one hand that villain can have?
Queen 10. Queen 10 opposite. Queen 10.
Well, that would be an up and down. It's even worse than that. Basically,
that's the one hand he could do that with that you're beating, is what I'm saying.
Oh, there's one more, which is even worse because that would have some decent equity because it'd have an up and down. Plus, I block the Queen 10 very mildly with my 10. So yeah, I do fold. There's too much ICM. I'm not called. What can I call it with? A high card ace. There is just one hand that he could possibly have that in this position, calling the 3-bet, willing to shove. And you don't see it on the action, unfortunately, but he had king queen.
I said gut shot.
Yeah, so he had the gut shot. So he only had 4 outs if I'd have called. Well, no, sorry, he would have had another 6 because his cards were live.
Only 3 because you blocked the 10. You blocked his gut shot.
Oh, sorry, yeah, of course. And then the king and the queen were outs as well, but he wouldn't have known that.
He wouldn't have known that, and he would have had to have felt that was. Yeah, I don't think he would have included those in his outs because he must know that that's you've got probably stronger kings and queens in your 3-betting range. You've got loads of ace kings and ace queens, right?
Yeah, I could have been playing kings, could have been playing queens, could have been playing aces. As much as it's an unusual way to have got this far with it, it's a possibility.
So would we have got the fold on the flop if we jammed? I think so.
This was the thing that I wanted to pull back on, because the table, and I say the table, it was led by the villain, but he only said, you should have c-bet, and it was just that. And I went, no, come on, look at the stack. You're floating on it pretty much any bet that I make. With the hand that he had, I said you're going to be floating pretty much any flop, and that's what I was worried about. So then whatever the turn comes, I'm left with a tough decision, and there's a lot more chips in there. And I was like, look, ICM says that I shouldn't be building that kind of massive pot when you're going to be floating. Yeah, no, it's not for me. But then the guy next to me piped up, and he was like, nope, yep, 100% c-bet. Yep, you've got the stronger range. You should be betting in that position 100%. And then someone else chimed in saying, oh, yeah, I would have c-bet in there as well.
Shut up, all of you. I didn't c-bet, all right?
He would not have folded king, queen suited on a 9-4-2 flop to a moderate bet. And I'm not going to shove with me ace high, as we both just described. So just ICM's too high, and I don't have the big enough cojones for that. It's just too high risk.
I wonder what the old GTO would have said.
So I did try to replicate it, but because I'm a cheapskate, I haven't paid for the proper full GTO wizard or any of that. Right. So the best I could come up with was an approximation of which was playing 40 big blinds. And I do have a check-in, but there is a part of the game tree where this is 100% GTO, but it didn't replicate ICM. So the biggest action was a small lead bet from me on the flop. But ICM would change everything because we're so near the money. Because I am that middle stack playing the big stack, I don't have a clue what way that would have pushed it. It could be exactly what you said. ICM says you jam, you get that in there, and you don't leave anything to risk.
It does feel like it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't have done it. I would have done it probably exactly, like move for move what you did, but it probably is a jam because this. But
then ICM might tell you to.
Maybe ICM might, but I feel like GTO would overrule it. Like it'd be the stronger of the two, and you've got to consider both, obviously, and the ICM just affects then the decision. But to me, like going back pre-flop, we 3-bet and he just flat called. Would he have flat called in pocket queens? Goes back to the same discussion, doesn't it? Mostly it'd be 4-betting, big pocket pairs. But he could be just knowing that the SPR is going to be favourable enough to just get it in on the flop anyway. But he didn't. He did check the flop with 2 diamonds out there as well. So I suppose you might then start putting together that he hasn't got an overpair and actually he's got 2 big cards. An open and then calling the 3-bet. Maybe we could have derived that he did have a holding like he's got. And then estimating that he's got that, could we then say, well, look, if we put in 1.5 times the pot, all in jam, is he going to call that with 2 overcards? Probably not, because even if he hits his queen, maybe his king, you could easily have what you're representing, which is that monster, that big pocket pair.
Yeah, I mean, I did say to the table, and it is like we've got the benefit of hindsight. I said that they've got hindsight-itis where they know that he's got king queen, but to me, he could have ace 9, he could have ace queen, and he's got the ace of diamonds. He could have ace queen of diamonds. He has called a 3-bet from someone who is under immense ICM pressure. So as much as he's incentivized to put pressure on the smaller stacks, this wouldn't be the position to do that with absolutely nothing. That because I've come alive. I've said, look, I've got a decent hand. Ace 10 is probably the bottom of my range, but he doesn't know that. and
Yeah.
he's going to have a strong calling range. I feel that he would have found it quite easy to just give up at that point. All right, bet 4.5. He's come back at me. I was playing with crap. Didn't work. Let's move on to the next hand where I can put pressure on someone else. I just felt, even just like King Queen, but it was offsuit, but one of them was a diamond, might be enough to keep it going. It's 2 back doors, that kind of thing. I don't know. So I just felt that they were seeing the cards he has and fitting them into the action that they felt was right. I feel that my mistake was either on the turn, I should have put out a small bet and seen where I landed. But more importantly, I weren't even sure if ace 10 was the right hand to be playing. It could be that ICM says just fold a ace 10 off, like don't get involved out of position. Maybe I was too caught up in trying to free bet, but I'm confident that the play that I made with ICM, and that's so important, it is with ICM, I weren't as egregiously wrong as everyone tried to make out.
Of course not. Of course not. I don't think so at all. Don't listen to them, Tain. They're stupid.
To be fair, one of the I was giving them all a lot of credit because I moved to this table. I hadn't been at the table for that long, and I moved to the table, and most of them were good. But then, because we were so deep in the tournament, most of the players are good. They're the ones that have been manoeuvring. Others, pushing them around, or they at least know how to survive. And the one guy just wouldn't shut up about it. He was literally black and white. No, complete wrong decision. It's like, mate, it's not even your hand. Kind of calm down, like give it a rest, kind of thing.
So all right, well done, mate. Like you've got an opinion now. Fuck off.
Yeah, he's the one who was sitting there with what 18, 17 big blinds, and then he's trying to get and this was just before I left, so I didn't get a chance to throw it back at him. But he started like throwing 2-3 offsuit. He's like, oh, look at my bluff, 2-3 offsuit. And he's like, oh, mate, you really don't know anything about ICM or even how to play this part of the tournament. You are one of the lucky ones that got through.
Yeah, and of course, and there will be those as well. What was it, like 100 runners?
Yeah, officially 120-ish because it had rebuys. Or something like that. So they might as well be counted as extra runners. Yeah, top prize $4.5 grand.
Awesome.
A bit of a bad take home.
When are we going to get the big win, Tain? When is it coming? I keep fantasizing about just like winning 30 grand or something. But you know what? We're actually playing these. We've played this bigger tournament now. I want to try and play something that size, or maybe a little bit smaller, once a month, maybe even a couple of times a month. Just want to start getting them in. And I know, obviously, you've spoke about the smaller buy-ins, like the £20 rebuy, or whatever it is, at the casino as well. I'll be so up for that. And I think we're now at a stage where we just need to start getting some regular play in. If we end up spending £100 a month out of our own wages, that's fine with me. That's not a silly amount. That's more than reasonable for a hobby that I love playing and want to get better at. So onwards and upwards.
Have I said on the pod before about staking yourself?
Staking yourself.
So do you know where people are staked, which means they can play at a higher buy-in without having to put the money up for themselves, but obviously they have to share the winnings in some proportion. Well, you do the same for yourself. So you say, I'm going to stake myself. I'm going to put in $100, but the most I was ever putting out my bankroll was $20. So I'm putting in 80 quid of my own cash, and I need to put 80. If I win, 80% of that winnings needs to go back into my own cash. I can't put it in my bankroll. And it means that you can just take these punts and you've taken the risk.
I like that. I really like that. Yeah. So like deciding on an amount. Well, I've got a feeling that when I actually bink and win the big one, I'll suddenly be saying, oh yeah, no, I wasn't staking myself there. That was just my buy-in, and I've now got 30 grand in my bankroll. But yeah, no. So I guess as long as you decide before you go, how much you're staking yourself and how much you're playing. Yeah, I like that.
And but you have to be good. You have to be disciplined and saying, okay, well, I've won £1,000. I am actually going to have to take £800 and enjoy it and spend it and blow it on
the mortgage,
and shoes, and mortgage and children and stuff. But why did you go with mortgage and I've gone with booze?
I thought you went with shoes. I was thinking shoes.
Booze. Yeah, I
Jesus.
need a new pair of shoes. I'm sorry, of all the lame thing, of all the big high spending things that people think of when they think of, big pink queens.
Yeah. Oh, well, I was just thinking, boring stuff like a mortgage, just like being disciplined enough to just pay the bills.
Yeah.
But anyway, love it. Yeah. Well, look, we're there. Like, it feels like the next stage, and it's a strange one because it's kind of like this stage is now us investing a little bit of our own money into ourselves. Like you say, it's kind of backing ourselves. It's believing in ourselves enough to go, right, that's it. We're going to put a bit of our own dosh in and play some bigger buying tourneys. So it's fun. Yeah, it's a good stage to be at. It's exciting.
Yeah, something I've always wanted to talk about at some point is just where, like, it shouldn't be the case that you put more money up and you play better players, and it's not necessarily an easier game, but it is. Like I told you, didn't I? I got excited and went down to the local £10 game down the pub. But it's just a crap shot. It was so difficult. I tried my absolute hardest to play decent, to put people under pressure, to pick out players, and it is just relentless. I think I free bet at one point and I got 5 calls, and it's like, oh, what? I actually people started free betting me in it stuff as well, and I'm like, but the thing is, it's not. I don't want to insult them, but they're not doing it because they're exceptional players who know what a good 4-betting range is. They just felt,
Of course,
I'm going to throw some chips around.
I'm
going to go crazy and see what comes.
But this is it. Some of it, though, I think does come from you're in a pub game. It's got to be over in 3 hours. You've got like 30 odd players. It's just like being in a hyper turbo. You go to the casino. It starts at 7. It might roll on till 4 in the morning. You've got a 9-hour tournament there. It's got a lot more room for creative play and a lot more room to sit back and actually play your strategy a little bit more. Whereas in a pub, yeah, it is. You've got to get the good cards. You've got to get a bit lucky. More so than how much lucky you've got to get in a casino game.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So is that the risk? Like when you're playing these hyper games, you've either got to play solid and just take the variance that you're gonna lose a lot of games, or loosen up and play a bit more wild to try to beat the increasing blind levels and take the variance that way instead. Like what I don't, where it's like what's.
I don't know what's correct, but I know what I do. I play a bit looser and a bit wider. I just, again, I'm adjusting for the table. If the whole table is playing loose, then no, I might sort of sit back and wait, but then maybe go ultra aggressive when I do get the right hand and just get someone to get all their chips in, even pre-flop. But generally, if it's just people are not adjusting for it being hyper turbo, I'll just open my range a little bit, not loads, but you might even find me opening on the button with like 3-4 of diamonds and just something a bit wider than I should really be doing.
Is that based on the knowledge that you're going to outperform most players post flop? You got position, and
a bit of that, and a bit of it's a little bit of just getting in there and playing while you're deep, because it very quickly turns into again a crap shot, and everyone's got like an M value of like 5, and then it is just push fold. So I think I open it up a little bit just to give me the opportunities to have hands that can stack people, and it will be hands like I say, suited connectors, stuff that can get big, pocket pairs that might hit a set, that kind of thing, stuff that you can win a big pot with.
I tell you what, like, I've just got to quickly share a serious cooler, like just to see if you'd have done the same thing, because I thought we were playing a game of chicken at one point. Long story short, I had a massive stack. Someone decided to shove on me, and I had kings right at the start, so I've doubled up, and then I'd won quite a few more pots early on. Anyway, so me versus someone else, we're betting around, playing around. The flop in the end comes, the flop turn and river come out. What is it? Queen, 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 jack. No, queen, 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 8-8 in some combination. It weren't in that order. It didn't flop trips, but it was in some nature of that order. But queen 8, and we were just doing that little dance of raise, re-raise, free bet on the river, just to see. Basically, I imagined we both had the ace, because I had an ace, he had an ace, and well, it wouldn't have made a difference, would it? No, yeah, it didn't make a difference. We were just playing the board essentially. And I was like, look, if you've got a queen in your hand, then that's fine. Like, but I don't think you have. And then we went in. So we ended up getting all the chips in, and then he's got like pocket 8s. So he has got quads. He's just got the other one, and I'm like, oh, goodness.
Oh my
Didn't
God.
even think of quad 8s. He was probably open. Oh no, he wouldn't have been open that I had the queens, would he? But and then the same player took me out. I had king 6, and I had ace king. And but anyway,
who has quads in a pub game?
He's not allowed to. But the thing is,
allowed. I thought it only goes up to trips.
And he's basically what was insane is he's a really moderate player, as in he plays very, very, very passively, very tight, doesn't give anything away. But I kept looking at him. I thought, I'm not even sure you know what hand you've got. He had a face on like almost confused, and he couldn't work out what was going on. And I thought that meant he was trying to work out, have I got a queen or something? But no, he just couldn't believe he'd got quads, and some silly prick was betting his life away into him, doubling him
with ace high.
Yeah, it's just the wrong person as well. Anyone else, it would have been so obvious they had this monster.
Yeah,
but it was him looking confused, like he didn't know what was going on. Bless him. But anyway,
wicked. Oh well, look, any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
Yeah, F ICM.
ICM.
Well, yeah, that strong word in ICM, and
yeah,
I need to study it basically. If I want to keep getting into these positions, I need to know how to use it to my advantage.
Well, they say it's just for poor people, don't they? ICM, and especially if you listen to one of my favourite podcasters, Clayton Fletcher, he would just be like, "What are you talking about? Just jam it. Like, you're 5 places away. Like, you haven't come here to min cash." He'd be saying stuff like that.
Oh, he was talking about not chopping either. I am a huge chopper. If I get into the cash and someone says chop, I get, ooh, yeah, go on then.
I mean, yeah, I think if I get down to top 2, I'm happy to chop. But equally, I'm pretty pleased with my heads up game these days. I wouldn't mind playing on either. I think if someone offered me a chop, I'd probably take it. I wouldn't even think too much about how strong or weak they are. It feels like a very gambly game at that stage. But I'm just confident I could win at least 50% of the time, I would say, on average.
Yeah, it's high. It's much lower variance. If you plan to earn as much money as possible, chopping is, as long as it's a decent kind of ICM chop or something that's in your favour, chopping is always
it just feels a bit sportsmanlike. And I know it might actually be the opposite to that. Maybe you should be playing until there's a winner. But you've both come that far. It's poker's gambling, but it feels particularly a roll of the dice by the time you get to heads up, and it's just a nice way to say, look, we've both done really well. Let's call it a draw.
Yeah, I like it as well. Like it's kind of saying, look, if you're happy sacrificing a small part of your entitlement, you don't have to take the risk of losing all of your entitlement, kind of thing. And
there's also a part of it that wants someone to say, "Oh, do you want to chop?" and then me just look them in the eye and just shake the head, say no way, and then just sit down, put my glasses back on, and wait for my cards.
Maybe that's a part of it. That's the opposite. That's why I always chop, because I don't want to be that guy who goes no, and then I'm the one who goes out first.
That's just the sadistic part of me that just, yeah. Anyway, all right. Well, look, thanks so much for listening, everyone. If you've got any comments, please leave them in the chat. And we will see you again very soon. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.